Welcome to this powerful story about growth, discipline, and the journey of becoming unstoppable. This is not just a story. It is a reflection of real struggles, real change, and real transformation. If you have ever felt stuck, unmotivated, or tired of starting again and again, this story is for you. It will show you how small decisions can change your life and how ordinary actions can create extraordinary results. Stay with this story till the end, because what you discover might completely change the way you see yourself and your future. The morning felt ordinary, but something inside felt different. You know that quiet feeling, when nothing has changed outside, yet something deep inside you whispers that today could be the beginning of something powerful. The sun rose slowly, painting the sky with soft colors, but your mind was already racing. Not with fear, not with doubt, but with a strange kind of determination. It was not loud or dramatic. It was calm, steady, and firm. The kind of determination that does not shout, but refuses to disappear. That was the first step toward becoming unstoppable. For a long time, life had felt like a loop. Wake up, do the same things, feel the same frustrations, and go to sleep with the same unfinished dreams. You tried motivation videos, read inspiring quotes, and even made plans, but nothing seemed to last. Every time you started something new, energy faded after a few days. You blamed your discipline, your environment, even your luck. But deep inside, there was a truth you avoided. You were waiting for the perfect moment instead of creating it. One day, something small changed everything. It was not a big failure or a major success. It was a simple realization. You noticed how often you said, "I will start tomorrow." That sentence had become a habit, a comfortable excuse. Tomorrow felt safe because it never came. And in that moment, you understood something powerful. If you kept waiting, nothing would ever change. That realization hit harder than any failure ever could. So, you made a decision. Not a dramatic one, not a life-changing announcement to the world. Just a quiet promise to yourself. I will start now, even if I feel unprepared. That day, you did something small. Maybe it was reading one page, exercising for 10 minutes, or learning a few new words in English. It did not feel impressive. In fact, it felt almost too easy. But that was the point. You were not trying to be perfect. You were trying to be consistent. At first, the journey felt slow. You expected quick results, but nothing big happened. There were days when you felt tired, days when you wanted to quit, and days when your old habits tried to pull you back. But this time, something was different. You did not rely on motivation anymore. You relied on discipline. Even when you did not feel like continuing, you showed up. Even when progress was invisible, you kept going. Then something interesting happened. After a few weeks, the small actions started to feel natural. What once required effort now became part of your routine. You no longer had to force yourself. You simply did what needed to be done. That is when you realize that becoming unstoppable is not about doing something extraordinary once. It is about doing ordinary things every day without stopping. As time passed, your confidence began to grow, not because you achieved something huge, but because you kept promises to yourself. Every small action became proof that you could trust yourself. And that trust changed everything. You no longer feared challenges. You started to see them as opportunities to grow. Problems did not feel like barriers anymore. They felt like steps. But the journey was not perfect. There were setbacks. Days when you failed, when you skipped your routine, when doubt returned. The difference was how you responded. Earlier, one failure would stop you completely. Now it only slowed you down. You learned to forgive yourself quickly and continue. You understood that being unstoppable does not mean never failing. It means never staying down. Another important change happened in your thinking. You stopped comparing yourself to others. Social media, friends, successful people, they all used to make you feel behind. But now, you focused on your own path. You realized that everyone has a different journey. Some start early, some start late. But what matters is not when you start. What matters is that you keep going. You also learned the power of patience. In the beginning, you wanted fast results. But real growth takes time. Just like a tree does not grow overnight, your progress needed time and consistency. You stopped rushing and started trusting the process. Every small effort was like watering a plant. You could not see the growth immediately, but you knew it was happening. Slowly, people around you started noticing the change. They asked what you were doing differently. Some admired your discipline. Others were surprised by your consistency. But they did not see the full picture. They did not see the days you struggled, the moments you doubted yourself, or the times you almost gave up. Becoming unstoppable is not about looking strong. It is about continuing even when you feel weak. One day, you looked back at your old self. The person who waited for motivation, who feared failure, who kept delaying dreams. That person felt distant now. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. You realized that the biggest change was not in your results, but in your mindset. You no longer asked, "Can I do this?" You asked, "How will I do this?" There was also a shift in how you handled fear. Earlier, fear would stop you. It would make you overthink and delay action. Now you understood that fear is normal. Instead of avoiding it, you moved forward with it. You took action even when you were scared. And each time you did that, fear lost its power. Another lesson came from consistency. You discovered that success is not about big efforts once in a while. It is about small efforts repeated daily, like learning English, for example. 1 hour of practice every day is far more powerful than studying for 10 hours once a week. The same applies to any goal. Consistency creates momentum, and momentum makes you unstoppable. There were moments when progress felt invisible. You worked hard, but results did not show. Those moments tested your patience. But instead of quitting, you reminded yourself why you started. You remembered your promise, and you continued. That is when true growth happened. Not when everything was easy, but when you kept going despite difficulty. You also learned to control your environment. You reduced distractions, avoided negative influences, and surrounded yourself with things that supported your goals. It was not always easy, but it was necessary. Your environment shapes your habits, and your habits shape your future. Gradually, your identity began to change. You no longer saw yourself as someone who tries. You saw yourself as someone who does. That shift was powerful. Because when your identity changes, your actions follow naturally. You did not need to force discipline anymore. It became part of who you are. One of the most important realizations was this: being unstoppable is not about speed. It is about direction. Even slow progress is progress, as long as you keep moving forward. You stopped worrying about how fast you were going. You focused on not stopping. As the journey continued, you started helping others. You shared your experience, your struggles, and your lessons. Not as an expert, but as someone who understands the process. And in helping others, you became even stronger. Because teaching reminds you of how far you have come. There were still challenges. Life did not become perfect. But now, you faced challenges with a different mindset. You did not see them as problems. You saw them as part of the journey. Every obstacle became a chance to grow stronger. And then, one day, you realized something beautiful. You were no longer chasing motivation. You were no longer waiting for the right time. You were no longer afraid of failure. You had built something stronger than all of that. You had built consistency, discipline, and belief. That is when you understood what it truly means to become unstoppable. It is not about never feeling tired. It is not about always being motivated. It is not about achieving everything perfectly. It is about showing up again and again, no matter what. The journey did not end there. In fact, it was just the beginning. Because being unstoppable is not a final destination. It is a way of living. Every day, you choose to continue. Every day, you choose to improve. Every day, you choose to move forward. And if someone asks you how to become unstoppable, you will not give them a complicated answer. You will simply say this: start small, stay consistent, and never stop. Because the power is not in doing something once. The power is in continuing no matter what. In the end, the secret was never hidden. It was always simple. But simple does not mean easy. It requires effort, patience, and commitment. But if you are willing to continue, even when it is hard, you will discover something powerful. You will discover that you were never weak. You were only inconsistent. And once you fix that, nothing can stop you. That is how you became unstoppable.